What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another Team News live stream. I'm Andy, of course, Fantasy Football Scout, and I'm joined by Mr. Team News himself, and the man that puts up with just about every single tech issue I have every single week, it feels like. How you doing, Neale?
I'm all right, Andy. Yeah, you're more bearable than Eddie Howe anyway, so don't worry about
I wasn't that bad this week, I don't think, from what I've seen, was he? We'll find out in a second,
that.
anyway.
Actually, he wasn't. He wasn't. He just omitted certain names, but at least he was pretty unequivocal about two of the players.
Usually he's much worse, I thought, but we'll get on to him. He's
Yeah,
probably one of the least interesting
yeah.
news this week. So let's jump into. There's kind of like it's almost breaking news. By Sky
Mhm.
standards, it's still like a couple of hours, so we'll call it breaking news. We'll start with Everton, I think.
Yeah, this came out of nowhere, really. I mean, some of the other injuries we'll discuss later have been, ongoing for a little while, but this came out of the blue. It's Richarlison will be the biggest one, I think, for fantasy managers. He will miss game week 23 against West Ham. He's got a very minor knee injury, and Ancelotti says he's probably going to be back for the Newcastle game, I think, on Tuesday. Sigurdsson's out as well. He's got a minor groin problem. There was no update on whether he would be back for game week 24, but doesn't sound too serious. And then you've got the other three, the sort of longer term ones: Gabamin, Gomez, and Iwobi. Iwobi could be back for Tuesday. Gabamin's just back in training, so they're getting players back. But yeah, lost Richarlison and Sigurdsson definitely for this weekend, and obviously Richarlison has attracted a lot of investments over the past couple of weeks. He's been banging the goals in. I think his price has gone up to 8.1 now, but he won't be around this weekend. He's going to be missing, which is you've only got another less than 24 hours to get him out of your team if you're thinking of shipping him. But it does sound like he will be back for game week 24 anyway.
Yeah, I suppose that's the only consolation. If you did bring him in, it's probably not a massive need to maybe spend a hit to get rid, but just have to hope it's one of those injuries that doesn't suddenly turn into something
Yeah,
even worse, which we've seen before. But fingers crossed there. Another one that a lot of people are looking at, myself included. I don't know if you're a Rashford owner, but lots of Rashford owners are out there wondering whether to keep, sell, is he going to play against Liverpool, etc.
I'm not a Rashford owner. I own Martial, but I think whenever Rashford's not in the side, I think it does affect the way Man United attack. So I'm slightly concerned as a Martial owner. So this was about as Solskjaer an answer as you could possibly have given this morning. It was like just classic Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He said that he wouldn't hold his breath on whether Rashford's going to be fit. He says, I would probably think that he wouldn't be ready. And this was this morning in his press conference at 10 o'clock. But he did stress that they've got another 48 hours or so to get him fit. They're going to give him the absolute amount of time, as were his words, to see if he's fit. They're going to do more checks and treatment on him. So it's not a serious injury. He came off with I think it was a knock to his back in midweek in the FA Cup. And we've been here before. I mentioned this in the team news tab. And we've been here before with Solskjaer, where he's almost ruled players out of games. I can think of De Gea, I think possibly Pogba as well, and even Rashford once before this season as well, where Solskjaer has ruled players out, and then miraculously they've recovered in time for the following game. So, yeah, it's tough to know what to make of it because they have got another game coming up, a very appealing one as well against Burnley. So whether he would save him for that, I don't know. But yeah, you can't trust a word the guy says, really. So I wouldn't be surprised if he is in the squad anyway on Sunday. We might get advanced notice because the MEN usually tweet out the travelling squad. But of course, with it being on Sunday and with it being only a short distance away at Anfield, then we're probably not going to get any word before the Saturday deadline. So yeah, I think if you've got him, then I can understand why people are selling because he's a lot of money and people are wanting to redistribute funds for Liverpool assets. But he doesn't sound like he's too badly hurt, according to Solskjaer. And if he doesn't make game week 23, then he could be back for game week 24.
Yeah, I think again, my non-doctor opinion, like if there's any chance he can play this game, he's going to play against
Yeah,
Liverpool. We almost have no hope with him. Maybe not no hope; it's a bit harsh, but without him, we're going to really struggle. So I think anything he can do to play. But then, as a Rashford owner, kind of speaking from that kind of point of view, then the worry is if he does play, will he get a reoccurrence? If not, will he need a rest because the next game is such a quick
yeah,
turnaround? We're not going to captain him against Burnley anyway because it's Liverpool double game week, so that's an absolute no go. and then the fixtures aren't fantastic after. So, just personal opinion, I'm probably going to sell him, but we'll see. It'll be for a hit. But anyway, moving on with the team news. How about Liverpool? What are we looking like there?
Yeah, they're getting bodies back. So, not heard nothing on the major players who were all fit anyway. The likes of Salamane, Firmino, Alexander-Arnold, Robertson. But Klopp has been speaking about some of the players who've missed out recently. So Milner and Keita won't be ready. They're a little bit more longer term. Matip and Fabinho could be back. In fact, Klopp says they are probably going to be in the squad. So they've been off for a little while. Fabinho adds to the options in midfield. That's not going to concern many fantasy managers, I guess. But Matip's recovery might, because that back four has been very, very settled of late. And there'll be a few Gomez owners amongst us. And of course, Gomez can deputise at right back as well if he's needed. So I can't see Klopp changing it for this weekend, even if Matip is fit. But with him approaching fitness and Lovren's meant to be back in training next week, then suddenly they've got options at centre half. And that does raise the spectre of rotation, doesn't it? I think going forward. But I think for now, with the defence in such good nick, 6 clean sheets in a row and very settled, and I wouldn't expect many changes this weekend. We might see Fabinho come back in midfield because he generally plays in games of this magnitude. But they're getting bodies back.
Yeah, I think it would be harsh, like if they drop Gomez 6 clean sheets.
Yeah, I can't see it.
He looks so good, and he did have. It was kind of his place to lose, like last season when he was fully fit, and he only lost it through injury. So fingers crossed he'll keep. I just think don't cheapen out on Liverpool players. I don't want to put people off players, but it does seem like cheapen out a bit by getting Gomez. How about Man City? You were correct last week with your Aguero prediction, although they did both start. So I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll make you predict again this week. How are they looking?
Yeah, there's a lot I didn't get right about City's lineup last weekend because they're really hard to second guess. There's nothing new. Guardiola said everyone's fit that was fit before. Sane is working his way back. He hasn't quite joined full training yet, but he's back on the grass. Laporte had another week of training. We don't think he's going to feature for now. I suspect it might be maybe one of the FA Cup games or beginning of February when he's back with playing return. But he's got another week of training under his belt anyway. So yeah, it's just trying to second guess Pep's selection now, because you'd think there would be rotation at some point over the next 2 games because they come so quickly together. But whether it's this weekend, I'm not sure because they've had a full week. I think Mahrez, the likes of Mahrez and Aguero, you'd expect to start again. You're never entirely sure. I said in my scout score this week, there's one manager who's got the temerity to bench a player who's just scored a hat-trick. It's Guardiola. But you would think that Mahrez and Aguero start. Maybe Sterling coming back in. Could you see him benched for 3 game weeks in a row? It hasn't happened for the past 3 seasons or so, as far as I can remember. And then beyond that, you're just guessing really, because he doesn't give you anything in the press conferences. De Bruyne has started 14 Premier League games in a row, so you'd think he is as close to a secure starter as possible. But
he came off on 62 minutes as well.
He did,
I'm
yeah.
fairly confident about that one.
I was miffed at the time because I was captain him, but actually, in retrospect, that's actually quite good because it gives him more of a chance, you think, of playing at least this weekend and possibly Tuesday as well against Sheffield United. And then they've got, I think it's the FA Cup after that. So there's possibilities for rotation there if Guardiola deems the need to.
Yeah, Aguero's such a weird one because he's one that you could captain, but at the same time, I just wouldn't be surprised if he does miss out, like you say, again, just because it's Pep Guardiola. So yeah, I won't even make you predict any further than that. I think that is probably the hardest team in the whole league to predict. How about Leicester? How are we looking there?
Pretty good, yeah. Morgan, who's just a backup centre half anyway, is going to be assessed. And Didi, I think, is pretty crucial to the way Leicester play, especially defensively. Makes a lot of interceptions, tackles, and things like that. Now, he was sidelined until February. I think it could have been up to 6 weeks originally with this knee operation, but he's already back on the grass. He's not going to play this weekend, but he's made a pretty swift return. So Roger says they're going to see after this weekend's game against Burnley, see when he could come back. But it sounds like he's possibly back by game week 25, which is the 1st of Feb, which would be a boon, really, I think, from a clean sheet point of view, because yes, he was present for the Liverpool and Man City defeats, but I think all 8 of the clean sheets this season have come when he's in the starting 11, and he does make them tick, I think, in the middle of the park.
Yeah, definitely a big miss. The only annoying thing as a Soyuncu owner is that Gameweek 25 is just when their fixtures, at least for 3 weeks, turn a
Yeah,
bit. There is a
yeah,
great article written by yourself, I think, about Leicester defensive assets. So if you want to go and have a read of that, if you're especially if you're a Chilwell prayer owner, obviously they're quite expensive, or even a Soyuncu owner, if you want to go and check out the article on the site, it kind of goes through Leicester defensive assets, especially with Ndidi out and stuff as well. So it might give you some food for thought on who to or whether to kind of take them out or not. Okay, moving on because there's loads more teams to go through. Chelsea, how are we looking there?
yeah. Lampard gave us an update on Pulisic. He said it could be the other side of the winter break, so I think that would be 17th of February, game week 26. Is that? So he's going to be out for a little while. Loftus-Cheek still training with the academy. He's working his way back very slowly. No update on Alonso Kante yet. There might be some more coming out tonight in the embargoed section, but apparently Kante was just missed last weekend as a precaution because of a hamstring, so he might be back this weekend.
Cool. I don't think many Chelsea. Well, I suppose there's Abraham at Chelsea, but not many other players that people are looking at the moment. Any other kind of interesting news, or any other big news?
From elsewhere, I'll have a quick look. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I can.
We've got Sheffield United. They seem to be, as every single week, they're fine. No issues there. John Lundstrom not mentioned as being missing or anything.
No. I think Wilder said he's pretty much fully fit. They'll have the two backup goalkeepers back, I think. Now, Lundstrom's a funny one. He was actually mentioned in the press conference, but nothing to do with these performances or anything. It's his ongoing contract. I wouldn't say a dispute. I think his agent's just haggling for a bit more money. And he was pretty poor against West Ham, especially in the second half.
Don't sow the doubt.
Well, do you know what? I think the more you look at Sheffield United fans forums, which I've done recently, they all see as a brilliant season, but he's looked maybe a little bit off it past couple of games. And there's a lot of calls for him to be replaced by Besic. I think particularly for these two are tough games against Arsenal and City. I'm choosing to ignore that, and I'm playing Lundstrom regardless this weekend. And Wilder hasn't made any enforced changes this season. Sorry, unenforced changes in his defence and his midfield from those, that regular front nine, back nine. So he would be booking the trend by benching Lundstrom off the back of one iffy second half. So fingers crossed, he just continues his habit of sticking with a very settled team.
Yeah, and I would say we're definitely not trying to scaremonger. There's no reason why he won't play. I did see myself though on Twitter. There's a few kind of FPL accounts that are kind of Sheffield United fans are like centred, and they said similar that he's not been playing as well recently. Besic has looked good. Maybe he's given how good he's been this season though. Hopefully he's bought himself some time. A few bad performances for all those good ones earlier in the season. Hopefully we won't see him missing anytime soon. One good piece of news I saw, not necessarily for this week, but was Spurs. I think there's news about Lloris maybe back soon enough, might help up shore that defence up a little bit, because they've got some pretty good players in terms of price range for it in defence, but just not keeping the clean sheets right now.
That's right, yeah. Lloris is back in training. He's not going to feature this weekend, and probably not in Game Week 24 either. But Mourinho said this afternoon that he was looking at early February as a possible return. So that's maybe Game Week 25, and then they've got the winter break after that. So you'd think he'd be definitely back by Game Week 26, which is on the 18th of January. The 16th of Feb. So not long left for Gazzaniga, I think, as a first choice keeper. So have an exit plan ready if you've still got him.
Maybe have an exit plan ready, even if Lloris isn't back anytime soon, because he's been awful. The chat, by the way, the live chat, they're not very positive when it comes to Besic and how good he is at football. So maybe Lundstrom will stick around a bit longer. Any other news? We swing around any other clubs you got there?
Yeah, do you want me just to do the usual run through?
Run through and I'll get the images up as we go.
Okay, dokes. Yeah, Villa. They've signed Pepe Reina, of course, this week, with Tom Heaton out for the rest of the season. And Dean Smith that it's a possibility that he'll start despite a lack of training. Target was pictured back in training this week. I think it was this morning, actually. No update from Smith in his press conference, but he's back in training. And you think after the horror show last weekend against Man City, then he's got a chance maybe of displacing Neale Taylor. Bournemouth, yes, we heard from Eddie Howe this morning, as we alluded to there in the intro. Just confirmed that King and Stacey were still missing as we expected. We're not expecting Mepham or Brooks, or certainly not Mepham. He's out for 12 weeks. Brooks and Danjuma, I think, are still missing for a while. Daniels is out for the season. Ramsdale, now this wasn't in Howe's broadcast section, but Ramsdale, I know there is a few owners of him. He's apparently been in light training. This was reported by BBC Soul and Sport. He's got a hamstring problem. He missed out in game week 22. And now light training maybe suggests that he's not quite there. I think he's about 50% on FPL, which is probably about right. So definitely some doubt whether he'll feature. Lloyd Kelly's back in training as well. He's a left back alternative, which of course Rico lost his place last weekend. So more competition for him. Brighton, nothing much. Moyes back from a knock, and the likes of Duffy, Webster, and Johan Bach have also shaken off knocks. So just Burn and his Kiedo missing. Burnley, Barnes is going to be out for a while. He's had hernia surgery this morning. It's gone well, but yeah, he's going to be missing for weeks and weeks. Goodmanson's very likely to be out as well. Brady's back in training. Wood has had his broken nose reset, which sounds painful, but he sounds like he's available. And Rodriguez has shaken off illness as well, so he could be back involved. Palace have lost Max Meyer to that injury that Aubameyang inflicted last weekend. They've got Joel Ward back, though, which is bad news, I would suspect, if you own Martin Kelly like I do. Because he was the hitherto first choice right back until he got injured. I think it might be a lot to ask of him to be played straight away at the Etihad. So maybe Kelly will start. If you own Kelly, you will be playing him this weekend anyway, I suspect.
No, he's on the bench for sure.
Yeah, same. So yeah, medium term, that's a worry, I think. Milivojevic is still suspended and has still got quite a lot of long-term injuries. Everton we've covered. Leicester we've covered. Newcastle, no one really cares about. St. Maximin is back in training. He has been for a little while, so he should be in contention to feature. They're going to make a check on Andy Carroll as well. They've got 6 absentees at least. Yedlin, Gale, Dummett, Manquillo, Mutu and Key. But Fabian Scher's back. And we saw Ritchie and Lascelles play in the FA Cup in midweek as well, so they're back in contention. And Norwich, this is fairly big news. Timo Pukki has been passed fit by Daniel Farke this afternoon. They've also got Dermich back, who's the backup striker. Godfrey, it was a first choice centre half. So if you own Handley, then that's a bit of a rotation worry, because you'd expect it to be Godfrey and Zimmerman when fit. And they've also got one other player, I think, back from injury. I can't remember. I'll come back to that. I don't think it's anybody important. They've got 2 new signings, by the way. They've signed in midweek, both midfielders, and they're going to be in contention. Southampton, nothing really. Valerie's still out with illness. Now, there was some quotes from Hasenhüttl, not on team news or injuries, but on Danny Ings, who said he was able to play 90 minutes now, and he's coped with the Christmas schedule really well. Of course, he's had injury problems in the past, but he did say that it doesn't mean that he will play in the future every game. And he highlighted Southampton's busy schedule over the coming week. So I suspect he might have just been laying the groundwork for a rest in the FA Cup maybe next weekend. But they have got 2 games coming up in what space of 3 or 4 days. So there's a possibility, which I don't like to raise. Again, I don't want to scaremonger because I'm an Ings owner as well. There's a possibility that he might get rested in one of those 2 games, because Hasenhüttl said that the front 2 expend a lot of energy pressing from the front. So, yeah, that is a worry you didn't need going into the game.
To be fair as well, when it happened over Christmas, Hasenhüttl was pretty open about it as well. So if he's talking about it, that does make me think it's probably more likely to happen than not. So as an owner, I'm not worried. I'm just going to play him every week unless we get told otherwise. But maybe bringing him in, a little bit of a worry right now. But I don't know, he's scoring so many, it's probably not a risk you want to take. But yeah, he has had kind of previous for saying that he was going to get arrested, and he did. Obviously, he hasn't said it this time outright, but definitely implying it there.
Yeah, a bit of a worry. I suppose the turnaround isn't quite as tight as it was in December, but still, sure. 3 games in a week, I'm not sure if he can cope with. Watford, they've got Hughes, Welbeck and Cleverley still out there making progress, but not quite ready. Kiko Firmino is also out as well as the longer term ones like Prodel and Janmat. Pearson said that, I don't know how he pronounces the guy's name, Ignacio Pusetto. He's a new signing from Italy. He's an Argentinian winger. but he's going to be involved this weekend. But I would put money on him being on the bench because they're in such good form at the moment, and I can't see him displacing the likes of Saw or Delafeu. I think he's just been signed as backup because they haven't really got many options out wide. West Ham, Antonio looks like he's going to miss out. Moyes said he still hasn't fully trained. I think he's been out for around 3 weeks. And he's not too far away, but it looks doubtful for this weekend. Felipe Anderson's also a major doubt, or a sort of a 50-50 call, because he sustained a rib injury in a fall against Sheffield United. So I think by the sounds of it, Moyes said it wasn't looking so good. Masuaku's had fluid drain from his knee as well, so he's a fresh concern. Fredericks, of course, is out for 6 weeks. And Fabianski, well, as the bench showed last weekend, I think they had 3 kids on the bench last weekend, so they're in a similar situation to Palace at the moment in terms of injuries. Fabianski, of course, as well, is out, in case you hadn't known.
Yeah, you fully aware of that, Andy. 13 minutes, like, seriously. Anyway, I won't rant about it again on a different stream.
If it's any consolation, at least he wasn't injured in the double game. You can imagine that if he'd got injured 10 minutes.
Would have given up at that point.
Yeah. So he's going to be out for a few weeks, West Ham have said, which doesn't sound too bad. It looked worrying when he came off against Sheffield United, but they've signed Darren Randolph in between that happening and this weekend. So from what Moyes was saying, he's as fit as we can get him. That's what he said. He's had a thigh problem recently, but it sounds like they're going to throw him straight in, because I think Moyes has maybe seen enough of Martin and who's the other guy, Roberto, already. So he might make his debut. Wolves, I think, is the last one. Ruben Vinagre is the latest addition to the injury list. He's got a hamstring problem. He's going to be out. I have to check. I have to admit, I haven't actually seen Santos' press conference yet in its entirety, but I don't think Bolly and Jota are ready to return just yet. I wouldn't put money on that at the moment. If I say anything different, I'll have that again in my article roundup at 5-ish, and then, of course, the predictions in the team news tab as well. So I'll get back to you on that one, but I think it sounds like they're both out.
Good stuff. So loads of stuff covered. A few injuries. Richarlison, obviously the big one. Fabianski, although we already knew that. I've got rid of him already for McCarthy. So looking for a Southampton clean sheet and goals from Ings. But yeah, thanks very much as always, Neale. If you want all the kind of latest up-to-date news, check the team news tab, as Neale just said. And obviously, Fantasy Football Scout, FF Scout on Twitter. We'll have any kind of more press conference news, team news that we get. Otherwise, we will catch you same time next week. Thanks a lot, Neale.
Cheers, Andy. See you soon.
See you all.